Okay. Hi, Professor Saklani. Good evening to you. How are you doing?
Hi, Parul. Great. Good to see you, man.
Thanks. So, everybody, welcome to the SFS Sunday mentoring session. If you're not a member of SFS, please download the app, both on the App Store and on the Google Play Store. You can sign up very easily. It's free, and you can join us. Also, follow us on X and on LinkedIn. These are the handles for SFS. Today, it's a great pleasure to introduce Professor Saklani, who is the professor of colorectal surgical oncology, robotic surgery, and peritoneal surface oncology at the Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. He's a mentor par excellence. There's so many of his mentees who I have personally met and who owe a lot to Professor Saklani. I know Avanish for a long time. We are friends, and it's a privilege to have him as a friend to me. He's going to speak to us on Aspire, Persevere, Achieve, the making of a surgical career. And it's an excellent talk, excellent way to inspire younger surgeons to achieve what they can in their career. So, Avnish, welcome to SFS. Thank you for doing this. After your presentation is made, I'm going to request you to stay on for a Q&A session. Initially, I may have a few questions, and then if you're open to taking questions directly from our audience, that'll be great.
Sure, Parul. I think I just sent it to through SFS WhatsApp site. So if you can open it or something, yeah. Or we can
Okay,
play.
so we are just going to get your presentations shown on the screen. So I'm going to stop sharing mine.
Yeah.
And do we have Professor Saklani's presentation? Vijay, do we have it?
No, not yet.
Okay. So yeah, please bear with us. It should get loaded very quickly. I actually have a pre-recorded one version, but if we can do Professor Saklani speaking directly to his
Can you
presentation, try and attempt that.
can you share the screen? Can you see the screen or not as yet? No,
Not
Not
yet.
not as yet. Okay, so there's a problem. Yes, yes.
So while we get the presentation, I think for all the audience, I would like to request that you use the Q&A section on Zoom to raise any queries so that Professor Saklani can take it towards the end of his session. As well as, you will have option to speak and turn on your audio once you have posted a relevant question as we move through the session. Sir, is there a way I can get the
Yeah,
PPT?
I think the slides have gone, so I think you should be able to download them on WhatsApp.
Yeah, we got it now. Oh, wow, this is pretty large.
I know. So, Parul, just out of till we start this session. So, how did
Yes,
you start this concept of SFS? And because I know this is the first time actually I'm attending till the slides get started.
of course. Wow, I thought I was going to ask the questions, but thank you for that.
Till the kids, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, we wanted to create a network of surgeons, and we are. It's a global network. For example, yesterday we had a master class on AWR, and we had surgeons from over 40 countries who attended. So, that was one of the aim is how can someone in a different part of the world connect with somebody like you? Because if you are on the app, what happens is you are actually accessible in a very direct manner to a surgeon anywhere in the world. So they could, reach out to you or to me or to anybody else. They could also share their work on a pure surgical platform. I know we do all this on LinkedIn and X, but there's also a lot of noise on those platforms, whereas this SFS was a purely surgical platform. So that was the plan. That's how it came.
Nice.
And we are doing all this, and people like you who agree to come on and help others, because it's also likely that after this session there might be people who might want to directly reach out to you for guidance, career advice, etc. So that's really what helped most of us in our career, and if we can do it for others, that's the best thing we can. So
Right.
sorry for a long answer.
No, no, that's pretty good, man. That's very nice. Yeah.
Vijay, are we having any trouble or should I run his recorded one? Because I have it open on my laptop already.
I have downloaded it and I'm sharing it just now.
Perfect. Okay. So
I hope it can
over to
show up now.
you, Avanish. You please ask Vijay or who is running it for the next slides. And I'm just going to switch off my camera until you're done, and then I'll come back with for the Q&A.
Okay, great. Thanks, Parul. Thank you very much.
Is my screen visible, Parul?
No.
Okay.
I already shared. 1 second. I'm going to reshare it.
Yes. Now it has started. Yeah.
Great.
If please go to slideshow and then.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Great.
Okay, Avanish, over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, good evening, Parul. So great to have a chat with Parul, who was my predecessor before we joined. My topic today is Aspire, Persevere, and Achieve, making of a surgical career. Next slide, please. And the next one. So normally, if you look at the CV, it looks like I did general surgical residency and I was pushed into surgical oncology 2000. I had interest in colorectal surgery. But actually looking back at it, I realized actually I had taken admission in engineering in UDCT and computer engineering. And then I got secured admission in medicine as well. And parents said, if one son is an engineer, why not become a doctor? So that's how you landed up there. I landed in KEM, which was extremely competitive, and that was not too good. And I started enjoying my life, and I joined general surgery in Nair Hospital, where it was quite a relaxing atmosphere. And then you had early interest. When I joined surgical oncology in TMH, then the colorectal was pretty good. It found very good. I had an interest in this. Next slide, please. So after finishing my residency in surgical oncology, but most of the goals were directed towards self. You were learning about anatomy, you were learning motor skills, technical skills. You had some idea about oncology and you were working as a service, but that vision of why you were doing it was not there. At the same time, you were unaware of the drawbacks of the system. There was no laparoscopy at that point. We are talking about 99 or something. Endoscopy. There was no disease management group. There were GI services, but there were no organ-based approach. So you could make out there was a problem in organization and management. And the whole aim seemed to be helping patients out with a very narrow view instead of a broad view there. Next slide, please. It was at this time that I met my wife in the hospital, who said, if you start your practice in surgical oncology and you would do it for the rest of your life, and why not go explore and expand your horizon? So that's how I went abroad. I passed my FRCS and I went to UK for higher surgical training. Next slide, please. So I cleared my FRCS Glasgow in 99. I joined UK and I managed to enter the specialist program and I sent CCT. And I finished my specialized registration. I think training in UK gives you a bit of perspective, a different way of thinking. It is based on KNF thing, knowledge first, then skills, then aptitude and outcome. It was organ based. There was good exposure to endoscopy, laparoscopy. Communication skills, I think, improved quite a lot, but still a lot to achieve. Next slide, please. And the quality of life is pretty good. You have a work-life balance in UK, and this was the time when we had families. We went camping, cycling, everything, traveling, skiing, and that was good quality of life. So it was good 10 years where you improved on everything. Next slide, please. Towards the last year of my surgical training, I met Professor Hare. He used to work in a deprived area of Wales, and he was good at lab colorectal, and he would let us, and it's matter of teaching, actually, you learned it all. So when I was planning to go back to in India, and I said, oh, India is not that well developed, which I'm talking about what I had seen in 2000. And then he said, okay, it means difficulties create opportunities, and you may be able to do it. And he said, when you want to look for water, dig a hole in the ground, but you should know where to go. So that's how I went back to India. There is something like this when you do a few procedures and you start feeling you're master of the game. That's what happened to me after doing my first 100 colonoscopies. I thought I had mastered it. My friend looked at me and smiled. So this was it. So it's just the beginning of a career and you think you have achieved it. The next slide, please. But like the Dunning-Kruger effect, the more you see. So when I wanted to come back to India, the only job that was available for robotic, I had some exposure below. So I managed to attain a robotic fellowship in Korea after meeting someone on a robotic course. And this was the first international exposure because there were people who were coming all over from Southeast Asia and the world to learn robotic surgery and laparoscopic surgery. Next slide, please. And then I met my next mentor, Professor Nam Kyu Kim. He was a very senior and technically able person. He was academically inclined, and he could see me at the stage I was in. And he had a unique way of teaching. Instead of trying to say how you do it, he said, "Okay, how do you do robotic surgery?" He said, "Oh, why don't you write a chapter on technical aspects of robotic surgery?" And then he made sure I read up all the papers about it. And this he would do every week. He would travel somewhere. He said, "Make some slides on this." And that was called of self-learning. And that is how I learned how to teach as well, just subtle ways. Next slide, please. But after reaching Korea, I got a bit of depression as well because this was something, these were highly specialized centers, high volume centers, 100 operating wrist, and with excellent service. They were organ based service. So if you ask someone what operation was going on, they would say, "Oh, we are a gastric unit, only do gastrectomies." The first concept of MRI, robotic, short course RT was there. So there was both quality and quantity. Very high standards, of course. All of these countries had screening programs as well. So all of them had early cancers and minimal invasive was very high. They used to publish about 40 academics papers per year. As it was an international training centers, all the big wigs from everywhere, Professor Zamora from Israel and from all the major centers, Sean Han Kim was there, and people used to come from all over. Jim Khan was there at the same time we were training there. They had a global understanding. Next slide, please. So when the plan to return to TMH, I joined as faculty in 2013. Parul by that time had left 2 years back. He had set a big background of GI, but the later space was very limited. So the whole GI oncology was together. There was no separate robotic program. The number of minimal invasive sets were very limited. So you had a big plan, but it was a bit challenging. Next slide, please. And then reached the only site that was available was ACTREC, and where you could go and operate a bit. So it was written as Advanced Center for Treatment for Cancer. But every time I entered the list, put something as laparoscope, and it was either very locally advanced. And I thought this should be an Advanced Cancer Treatment Center. Next slide, please. And this is the time I realized why is the disease pattern in India different to the Western world. I thought the prevalence of colorectal cancer was very low. It was rising slowly. Next slide, please. But the survival for colorectal cancer in the India was very low. And that was because the prevalence was low and there was very few lists to put them on. Next slide. So the challenges there was a high patient workload, but most of these were advanced cases and they would require a stoma. There was a problem with having MRI for rectal cancer because it was not supposed to be cost effective. Joint clinics were not very organized. Default rates were very high because the APRs were there. The other thing was in terms of the list was very limited, shared between HVP and colorectal. There were no Allen stirrups and no robots. So now you got everything. You got the skills, but the challenge is how to set up service. Next slide, please. Thankfully, I think the management had a thing and they decided to create a colorectal unit with two consultants. The list were ring fenced. And then you could make out change. You managed to get people together. You convinced that MRI was mandatory for rectal cancer because unless you had standard MRI, you would not be able to present any of the data because that was quite a challenge to do it. We procured laparoscopic stacks with public-private partnership. We got generators, encouraged local companies. So we had low-cost, high-tech machine. The most difficult thing was to get the team together, to get the radiologists, the radiation oncologists, and medical oncologists. The idea was to create a joint venture. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Ooh, are we moving? Can we move?
1 second, I'm just trying to move this 1 second.
Okay. So this was the thing. This is like all clinics, because the high volume of cases, the best way you could discuss this was in a joint clinic where residents would prepare the list. So there was myself standing there. There was a radiation oncologist, the medical oncologist, the radiologist, and even pathologist. So you could make quick decisions about neoadjuvant therapy, see them again, and if you did something good, you could tell everyone about it. There was a pathologist who would discuss the thing about how the CRM involvement was there, and we could celebrate our successes and identify failures as well. And this was the most difficult part, getting teamwork done. Next slide, please. I think the best way to planning is the most important thing before execution. In my first year, so we did an audit about 800 colorectal cancers, only rectal cancers, which were there. And then we realized that the prevalence of disease is low, but it's totally different. We realized that 30% of these patients were less than 40 years of age. Signet ring was almost 13%, and that was very challenging. Early rectal cancers, unlike Korea, was less than 4%. So majority of bulk was locally advanced, 50% or so. And peritoneal, liver mets, and ovarian metastases were present. So if we had to do something, we had to look after the young people, we had to sort of something for Signet. And locally advanced, we had to improve on this. We could not make cancers early because that can be done only through a screening program and through a national thing. And that was out of my reach. Next slide, please. And okay, if you click on the first video, and that will come. And then we started the laparoscopic program. So we had a first fellow, Sudhir Jatal. We increased our coordination with centers. We made centers for minimal invasive training. The J&J played a big role in this. National faculties coming to visit it, and there were international fellows who would come over and teach us. And that is how laparoscopy improved. If you click on the right video as well, we started the robotic training in about, can we click on that? In 2014. So we were the first one to start, and then the urology joined in, and then the whole hospital was there. We became founding members of CRSA, and there was a good association. Even during COVID, we had a lot of webinars, and Southeast Asia played a major role in development. Namkyo came, Professor Min, and Professor Choi. So we would definitely go for all these conferences, present our work, and learn from them. And Professor John Marks was there towards the end when we wanted to do single port surgery. This was Jim as well. So all very inspiring. So you travel to present your work to learn something new and get back in. Next slide, please. Okay, can we click on this video? With exentration was another thing because that was the need of the hour. People were not very keen to take it on full day services, high morbidity. But coordinating with the Pelvex group, we joined in 2013, and the Sydney RPA group, we were able to carry out exentrations. We managed to convince people to have minimal invasive exentration. This is Professor Chang and the European group. And because of that, there was an interest in exentration. Blood loss went down. It became safe and became standard of care. The next slide, please. Peritoneal surface metastasis was also a major problem. 8% was colorectal thing. We found the Peritoneal Surface Oncology Society. Can you click on that video as well? And this is the time when the peritoneal surface societies in India were growing. The Prof. Sugar Baker and Oliver Glenn. At time, Somashekar and Aditi played a major role as this. This is Dr. Kusumara. So it looks like a lot of things is opening, but everything had to be developed itself. And sooner or later, we trained residents who had good quality work, and they have established this all over the thing. But taking all this, so you have to balance the life. And this is Professor Sugar Baker. He's played such a major role in setting up the service, and it is quite established in India. A conference was a good way to meet people and see what else was happening. Next slide, please. But I think the foundation of the department, I think what we were thinking is act locally and think globally. And these fellows were the main thing. When you trained them, they went to their own areas there, then they would practice. This is Dr. Vivekanand and then Sajid, who were in UK. Can you click on the video? It should move. And this is Dr. Devaka. So various parts of India, and all of them learned skills. They went to regional cancer centers like Pavan Sugur in Kidwai, Swapnil in Banaras, and they were able to emulate not only the surgical thing, but also the way of training. And by going to meetings for European meetings, American meetings, we were able to present our data. So the colorectal services in India were not very popular at that time. It's still getting established, and we are probably known in most of the countries as well. But it used to be hard work, work hard and play hard sort of thing. So that was good. And this is Nabina, who's in Mangalore, Sudhir Jatal and thing. Good. Next slide, please. But the idea was not just about service itself. There is something called as power of tiny gain. So you have to think about what has gone right and what has gone wrong. So everything was examined. So 1% better every day, and you'll have a better outcome. So should we do staging laparoscopy for peritoneal mets or something? If you have poor responders, do consolidation chemotherapy help? What is the outcome of cell? If you had a question, we had an answer. We did data for everything. Next slide, please. And the whole idea was when you had a question, someone would be given a task and they would have their own authorship and they would have right for this. Most important thing, you published it as a sort of thing. These were audits, and audits are very important, but probably you don't require IC clearance for this. The idea is to improve your practice. So you can find what are drawbacks in the system and you can change your thing. Based on this, our work was recognized and we became frequent speakers in international forums. We became reviewers for many journals because you had worked on it. Next slide, please. Looking at service things, so for rectal cancer, we had APR, LAR, we started the intersphinctic resections, excentrations, extended TME, and HIPEC. Next slide, please. With all of us were aware of low anti-resection thing, because I know when I left in 2000, the staplers were not available in India or only in private patient, but they became quite accessible thanks to all the companies which were there. Intersphinctic resection, because of influence with Southeast Asia, we are able to offer. Next slide, please. And because of MRI done, you could identify the intersphincteric space and take up patients for intersphincteric resections. Next slide. But you had to look at data as well because you are all distal resection margin. So we looked at our own data to show a 1 centimeter margin or even less than that in good good responders was really very good. Next slide, please. And we had to we did laparoscopic intersphincteric resection, and that was the truly laparoscopic or natural orifice procedures. But when you do something and initially these procedures take long, you have to show data. So next slide, please. And when we audited it, next slide, please. Then you look at why the time duration looked a bit longer initially. The blood loss was definitely less in laparoscopic and the margin involvement was less. So laparoscopic intersphincteric resection became standard of care. Next slide, please. And then the robot came in, and that was really a good tool to book it. And we worked a lot on intersphincteric resection and intersphincteric dissection and stapled anastomosis. Next slide, please. And the volume increased so much that we were doing almost 50 intersphincteric resections, only 10% of the procedure, so maybe 50 every year or so. Next slide. But with volumes, there was always a question. So we compared robotic versus laparoscopic procedures to see if they are better. And the initially part, the robotic outcomes look better. People also thought probably if you didn't use a stapler and you just use intersphincteric resection, then it would be okay. That is why we had to concentrate on functional outcome because the stapled anastomosis has better functional outcomes. Next slide, please. So we had to challenge ourselves. So we always think that a robot is a better tool and would they give better functional outcome because you dissection from the top thing. So we looked at all our patients who had done intersphincteric resection. We did propensity case match analysis. Thankfully, by this time we had Kazi, who was an excellent statistician and a very good hard-working person, and he managed to kind of give a good finishing to all of these studies. Next slide, please. And despite our belief that the robot was a better tool, you could see the reality. There was no difference in loss or incontinence score between a robot or a laparoscopic procedures. Next slide, please. When you look back at about, we did a lot of intersphincteric resection, but 20% of them would never have a stoa closure because either they got some distal metastasis or maybe because they had stenosis, they were waiting for a year. So we said, could we have another option to this? And turnbull cutate was the one which was getting popular. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the turnbull cutate is where you deliver the colon, leave it hanging about 8 or 9 days, and you suture it, and you don't have a stoma. Next slide, please. And there was good data from Europe in older patients. And we thought, can we have the same outcomes in India? So we started initially with redo procedures or so, and we did about 40 or so. And then we realized our patients are younger, the anal tone is more, and sometimes the chances of congestion or early reversal is high. So about 1 in 5 really go back to theatre early and they will have a stoma. But 60% of these patients actually never required a stoma. The functional outcome after Turnbull for the first 6 months is also a bit challenging. But it is always good to do this and bring this in public domain. Next slide, please. So you look at failures and you look at this. Multivisceral dissections were there. You have tumors like this where you have mucin all around the floor and you have nothing but an excitation. If you did an open dissection, then you didn't have time for MIS list. Next slide, please. Thankfully, we had really good fellows. Ashish Pokarkar was one of our fellows, and we started pelvic exenteration laparoscopically. We had good volumes, and we did about 10 lap total pelvic exenteration over 2 months or so. And then we realized we had found the link to it. The blood loss was less, and everyone seemed to be interested. And suddenly, all these patients who were waiting on the list for a couple of months or so started getting over. Next slide, please. So probably we must be doing the maximum number of minimal invasive pelvic exenteration, about 220 or so. Next slide, please. But we also had to audit our results. All the trials of MIS studies were done on CRM-free patients and not T4 at all. So because this was the need of the hour, we first did it slowly. We did the first 50 cases and we audited the results, whether it was safe or not. And then we looked at oncological outcomes over the first 60 cases. Next slide, please. And what we found was the blood loss was definitely lower, abdominal wound infections were lower, the time was more. But as we got better at it, it still takes a bit longer. The morbidity is still the same, but blood loss is definitely lower, and patients are quite willing to have it done. Next slide, please. When we doubled our numbers, we audited it again to look at outcomes, and it was safe and acceptable. So just because there were patients, everything was audited. Next slide, please. We also had to look at complications. Urinary leak rates after exenteration for 10 to 15%, strictures 5%. So we audit our next slide, please. So we audited our results and compared the standards and tried to find out how we could do better to avoid this complication. So looking at complication itself, you can improve on yourself. Next slide, please. We thought because urinary leaks are high, if we have only a prostate cancer going into rectum, can you remove both the rectum and prostate? So can we use the bladder as a conduit sort of thing? So we did bladder sparing exenterations where we would cut off the urethra and neck of the bladder and suture it and keep a suprapubic catheter. Sometimes you could join the bladder to the urethra as well, but most of these cancers had prostate involvement. So we did about 25 of this. Initially, the technical success was good, but we are still looking at quality of life analysis before we do this anymore. And next slide, please. You had tumors which would touch the seminal pedicles or lateral pelvic nodes, so we got better with extended approach because we did the early cancers and the advanced, and we could do something in between because our anatomy had become really good. Next slide, please. So we looked at outcomes of extended TMEs and they looked quite acceptable, even with minimal invasive approach. So I think that became a standard. So by doing all this, our MIS, which was almost about 10% or so for advanced disease, by getting some early cancers, this had increased to 70 to 90%. Next slide, please. Cytoreductive services, I think we found initially we started with peritoneal disease. Pseudomyxoma was not very known in the country. I think Sanket Mehta did a good thing. He came over, we took him as the proctor for the first 5 cases, and suddenly a lot of pseudomyxoma started coming, and we probably have the largest numbers of pseudomyxoma and mesothelioma. Colorectal peritoneal mets, also we did quite a few. Next slide, please. So it became a comprehensive service. So you have to do all this. You have to ring fence list for HIPEC. You have to ring fence for exenteration. The more than 620, about HIPEC 330 HIPEC have been done for colorectal cancers and 200 pseudomyxoma. So because it was done every week or so, a fellow would have assisted a lot of them. Next slide, please. So the cytoreductive surgery, the quality of surgery improved. when you were taking some incidental peritoneal disease, we started doing laparoscopic cytoreductive surgery as well. And that looked okay as well. So we were some of the contributors for the SOGI registry. Next slide. Next slide, please. Synchronous liver resections was a problem because who would put the patients on the list for this one? So if we did separate primarily, then it was disadvantages the patient. Fortunately, one of the HPV surgeons came over for a year for improvement of MIS services, and then we dedicated one list to simultaneous resection for liver as well as colon. I think Kazi played a big role in this, and how you develop the service. And over 1 year, it developed really very well. And now, with robotic coming in, the HPV department themselves are doing a lot of these, and we don't put many of them on our list now. Next slide, please. So we had to be academic as well, and we started with simple things like survivorship programs. If a nurse-led program would lead to better follow-up, for low-cost economy, if you give chemoradiation, you give statin, would lead to better pathological outcome without toxicity. Early stoma closures to avoid strictures, and these were some of the trials. We finished recruiting for the statin, and this one there is another parastomal hernia thing. We decided to do a circular stapled stoma, and that is halfway through. And there were many other trials which were going on, and everything was audited. Next slide, please. Thankfully, at that time when you were an actress, you managed to get use of Nazia and Saurabh Dalal, and there was a lot of translational research. We told them the signet ring was a problem, so they managed to develop cell lines and organoids and PDX model in mouse. And then we looked at different therapeutic models because standard Capox wasn't working. And they found out surprisingly, irinotecan and paclitaxel was working better on them, and that gave us an idea. And based on this translation research, we have a phase 2 and phase 3 study which is going on. Next slide, please. The other thing was why some tumors are radio resistant and thing, and then we sort of actually looked at it. The LCN level 2 proteins can predict response to neoadjuvant therapy, and the whole idea was to make antibody to this, and it could be marketed as well. Next slide, please. For all these things, we decided to look at learning curves and benchmarking. So every unit should have benchmarking studies. What should be the conversion rate? What should be a CRM thing? And you have an idea. Because of our fellows, we also realized what was the learning curve there. And so we had a lot of publication for benchmarking. One of the most important things for the futility of pelvic exentration. Sometimes you do exentration and they would either have recurrence within 6 months or die. And then we found out criteria whether could you avoid doing such futile surgeries for this one. And Kazi was very instrumental in bringing the statistics for this as well. Next slide, please. For exentrations, we had a lot of data because we published it. Next slide, please. For functional outcomes, we did all the functional outcomes which were there. We had a good team there. We compared LAR versus intersphincter resection, long course versus short course with boost, without boost. My wife for the gynae oncologist, and for the young females, we started looking at lap ovarian transposition. They were followed up for 5 years to see what the menstrual function was there, what was the hormonal assay, and that was very good. So we compared robotic versus lap intersphincter resection. So once you looked at survival and technical things, then you have to look at better things, look at functional outcomes. Next slide, please. Signet was a problem, and we looked at many challenging problems whether they should do long course or short course TNT, and then we found a Signet approach, taking going outside the S234s to the nerves. Should we give triple drug therapy or not? Anorectal melanoma is somehow very common in India. We must have operated more than 110 or so. And despite giving immunotherapy, outcomes are still not improving. So should we give radiotherapy or not? So we are having a look at NGS studies to see if we can improve outcomes for anorectal melanoma. Next slide, please. The most important thing for giving for meetings is to get yourself established, and you can collaborate with them and get better outcomes. So we collaborated with Corsica study for complete outcome, complete response, and we found they are not the same for India as well as Western worlds. Pelvex, we did multiple studies, including the benchmarking study there. Next slide, please. And for society initiative, we looked at catastrophic expenditure in colorectal cancer. We wanted to do many multicentric studies. Unfortunately, we were not very successful because there were a lot of restrictions by the time you get to IEC and a memorandum of understanding, and we have busy practices, and it's very difficult to sit down with forms and send it across. And that is where I think we were not very successful because it was a bit restrictive and time taking. Next slide, please. So we had a lot of surgical residents, but the residents used to work 3 months in a day. They could get inspired, but the thing was to train them as fellows. Initially, had one fellow every 3 months, and now we have almost four fellows who actually work for a year or so. And some of them are really so good that you're happy. We used to have training in wet lab and animal lab, and we would do the same for exenteration and HIPEC. Next slide, please. So what started with only 10%, less than 10% resection been doing MIS. So for rectal cancer, at least it's more than 90%. Conversion rates are less than 1%. And that is not just because of the skill of surgeon, it is team building, the fellows and residents and the cameraman. I think it's not a very polite program, but it is effective. Next slide, please. But how do you know whether what we have done is effective? So our policy was to, at least my thing was to look at survival of patients. So we looked at when we joined in 2013, what were the patients who presented, and we look at 5 years down the line, 2018, to see have things improved or not. So in the first year in 2013, there were 511 cancers, rectal cancers, and over 2018, there were 931. Next slide, please. See, we wanted to look, there was a difference in 5 year survival. And as you can see, between 13 and 18, the median age of patients has become younger because they used to come more to us. More low rectal cancers were coming to us, 48%. Signet trunk had improved. More T4 cancers. Next slide, please. The pattern of treatment had changed. Short course has almost, and chemotherapy became 40% because of COVID. Exentrations had increased. MIS had also increased in 2018 to 73%. The CRM involvement actually looks slightly higher because we probably may be doing more challenging case. But most important, the 3 year and 5 year survival looks like a drastic improvement, 20%. We looked at DFS and there was no difference in DFS. So it was not just surgery alone. It was the whole team itself, multidisciplinary team giving chemotherapy, looking after people who have recurrences. Next slide. And maybe because there were more lists, you could salvage more recurrences as well. Next slide, please. So it looks like it seemed to have worked from 13 to 18. So after 18, the follow-up was in 2023. So it seems to have improved survival. But if you're looking at it only from patients with from here, but you look at the standard of surgery all over the country, because of all our fellows who are working in the states, and of course there are many other people along with us. There was Somashekar, Dr. Jagdishwar Good, Ramakrishnan, there were people like this all around the centers, and somehow the standard of colorectal cancer has improved, and I'm quite happy to see this. Next slide, please. And these are some of the fellows. This is some time back slide. The idea was to have fellows who are trained all across the country, and they can replicate the whole model. And the idea was to think globally and act locally, and then you could send the model across. Next slide, please. But no, all of us want to be top guns there, but there is a balance. Okay, if you take long operating list, operate till 2 o'clock for HIPEC or exenteration, something's gonna give. We have families together as well, and then one on the right is my wife. Okay, who's balancing it quite well. Next slide, please. So teamwork is key. Getting people together is very important, and this worked very well till the onset of TNT. And after TNT, I think it's falling apart a bit. Next slide, please. So I think with all these things, I think finally the hospital got recognized. They got a honorary membership by the Colorectal Society of UK, got a clinical leadership award by RCPS Glasgow. Next slide, please. So the idea was a vision to improve colorectal services in India because there was we were not known for colorectal cancers in the country. The aspiration came as you went along, but inspired by early mentors and the national need. Perseverance was training across the country. We traveled regularly, did my residency in UK, went to Korea, and then traveled consistently every year. While it looks like you're on a holiday, it's a lot of travel to learn a few things. But every time you gain about a centimeter and you grow taller. So you built everything with service, research, education, and it's a good unit. Next slide, please. And you could only achieve this because of all the whole team which was there, the residents and the fellows and the hospital itself. So it's been a good journey. And what we are very happy is the thing is not only about the clinical departments that you build, but it's all about the people you have actually groomed under your care, and you can see them prospering all over, and the benefit goes on to everyone there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Avanish. That was a amazing journey you've shared with us. And, we have a really good audience. Some of them have put in questions into the Q&A in the chat. I'm going to ask our support team to try and add them into the queue where they can speak if they want to. So while that's being done, Avnish, how does someone follow your pathway? You've got such an illustrious pathway already. And if some of the surgeons listening on this call and who are going to also view this on a recorded version on the app, what is your advice? If you had to give maybe 3 or 4 points, how does one become Professor Saklani? Can you give them some advice?
Which I don't know. Actually, you just become. I think you all know it. It's only situation it makes it. You should have a drive. You should have a passion, and you should have a good team work around you. And most important thing in the team members itself. But most of the time, it's a situation there. I know many of our colleagues who are settled abroad as well. But India is a very challenging country, not in terms of patient, in terms of governance and logistics and all. So somehow, it's a bit difficult and challenging, but there are opportunities there.
Since you made this presentation, what is coming next in your academic output from your unit? Are there things which you may have started? What can we expect now, next 6 or 12 months, which you have not mentioned in your output so far?
Because you have to know what you have done and what you're not able to achieve. So I think a vision is to plan for the future. So now when you go for, I went for ESCP in France, and then, most of these are early cancers and they are talking about organ preservation. So idea is we still don't have a vision of thinking far. So there is no screening in the program. Even the symptomatic pathway is very weak, and somehow we have not been able to strengthen it. I think this will probably not come for the government because it is not cost effective, but having a fit program, it may be in private health sectors where you can ask people to come forward. We can adopt the US model. The country doesn't have to sponsor screening programs. You could encourage people to go to hospitals to get a fit test, and you could change the level of the fit from 120 to 80 depending on how this, and that way you improve screening. So technically it's become very good. So what we operate, I think we can only improve survival for advanced cancer up to a certain level. To move to a higher level, you have to detect early screening. I mean, the other challenge which I was not able to do, which I have started the process, is signet ring cancers. We have to challenge them with different drugs like Folviri and Paclitaxel. We have a trial which is approved by IRP. We don't have funding for this. The idea was to give them Folviri systematically and intraperitoneal Paclitaxel for this, because signet is a 10% of our population. Most of these young people, and when you see families and with children of 19 who have signet ring cancer, and despite doing everything, we can't do much. But there's a lot of challenges. There are teams ahead, Ashwin, Kazi, I'm sure they'll fulfill the needs.
Is there any plan for pooling in data from different centers in the country? Are there challenges to doing that?
Yes, I think the earlier predecessors were very supportive, so you could do simple things like audits, and you could present and improve the thing. But now it's a bit, you getting an IC clearance from them and getting collaborative thing and memorandum of understanding is a bit challenging. It requires a lot of workforce. So we have a lot of trial coordinators there, but getting it across, because we are not talking about a community which is doing radiation oncology or medical oncology, where sometimes most of it is surgery is labor intensive. Like you already know, you spend time from 9 to 9. and getting time to collaborate is different. But societies like this are doing this. I know the Hypex Society in Depso is doing a great job getting people together. They're recruiting people for trials. But in busy hospitals, I have to say, not been very successful in those. Maybe I didn't have time for those. But I am so sure societies or things like Surgeons for Surgeons can get people together. So you have like-minded ideas. So there are people like us who do a lot of lateral pelvic node dissection. You have data on them, and then you can do this. And anorectal melanoma, we have more anorectal melanoma than even in Australia there. But we are unable to get funding for NGS for these ones to see how they can respond and how they can have immunotherapy there. But if someone across the world does it, it's okay, because we know CMC Vellore has it and all. But I tried very hard to get data for that one. It's not that easy because it's not surgeon driven. There would be the pathologist there will be medical oncologist thing. So how to get a key goal to get people together is very difficult. You can do it for peritoneal surface, you can do it only for surgeons. But if it's a multi-speciality group and thing, when you finished a trial on statin, 30% of the patients actually had protocol violations. For the simple reason, if the response was very good, the radiation oncologist would want to give thing all for patient benefit, but then sometimes the trial may not go in the right direction. So I think if there are multiple collaborators involved, that is a challenge how to get people together. But that is the goal of societies, to get people together with a shared goal.
Personal question, what keeps you going?
I think you can only be bold when you have good support at home. So unless you have support from your family, that's good. Then you can do this all. And of course, the team. And like when you go to a team, it's like a family. So you are not thinking of finishing a job and coming back. Okay, you enjoy staying there, and that is good fun. And in between, you go out for academic conferences, you learn, and you have a good time as well. So yeah, I think the idea is to create a happy environment.
And I saw that on your last slide, you had your contact information. Are you all right if people on the audience from our group reach out to you?
Yeah,
I, of
sure.
course, want them to reach out to you on the app through direct chat, but I'm sure that a lot of people will want to reach out. It's now time for question answers from the audience, and we have actually got people who submitted their questions actually now able to speak. So, Krishna Rakshak, can you unmute and you can speak with Professor Saklani directly now? Go ahead. Okay, while he's still doing that, Pawan, whoa, nice to see you, Pawan, on the program. Go ahead, please.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Hi, Pawan.
Hi, sir. It's a nice talk. It's like uh, you just taken through the journey of your colorectal work, and yeah. So I just want to know what's that extra driving force, because every day you come with a great driving force. What's that? The energy, the renewed energy every day. It's like undying.
May I tell you what, Miss? Actually, success can only drive you so much. Actually, it's failures that can drive you more. So the more challenges you have in life, the more you'll push yourself. That works for a poet. It works for an artist as well. If you have a heart broken in love, or maybe you'll have better poetry. Sorry, just joking. Sorry, that is the classical laughter.
Yeah.
Yes, and for people in the audience who don't know, Dr. Pawan Sugur is extremely accomplished surgical oncologist, and he's got some of the most fantastic operative videos you can see. So thanks, Pawan, for joining us. Jagannath Dixit, Dr. Dixit, can you go ahead? You have a couple of questions for Professor Saklani.
First of all, I congratulate Dr. Avanish. Within a short time, you took us to a journey. It's really, nice to see all your photographs and collection of, publications and all that. But I have visited Korea many times. Whenever I go there, they tend to, ask, are you doing only colorectal, or are you doing all other work of robotic or lab and all that? But sometimes it is little uncomfortable to say them that we are doing everything. because being I'm in the corporate hospital, somehow we need to generate the volume and also, whatever the justification we need to deliver. So that's why it is little, whenever we attend many conferences, we tend to see that, a lot of colorectal units have been getting developed, and people across UK coming and practicing and developed many centers. But there is some overlap of people doing both benign cases and also malignant cases. So since Dr. Avanish is in a Tata center where a lot of work, of course, 99% it's all malignancy or fortunate enough. But there are a few people who are trained, but they are not able to succeed as you have done so far. So, and that's one thing. And second thing is, still Indian context, we are having a very poor follow-up of cases of colorectal. And another point is I just want to mention is the transanal procedures are yet to pick up in India. Is that anything we can do work and take it forward?
Thanks, Dr. Dikshit. It's great talking to you again. I think many of our fellows who are across the country, actually, this is a center you can focus on one specialty, but the skills are reproducible. Many of our fellows are there, a surgical oncologist, and they can reproduce the same thing, and they can do either esophagus or stomach and things like that. So that's, of course, the situation. You're still serving people. The other thing about transanal thing is we had gone for the course for transanal TME, but then we realized it has a learning curve, and for our group of patients, the number of patients who would require this is really very low. We were doing quite a few TAMIs as well. And because of the robotic and the build of the patient, and because of the volume, we didn't have any conversion. The problem in the Western world was conversion was more than 10%. I'm sure even in your hand, the conversion is less than 1% in most of the centers. So there is no need for it. I mean, there are many technologies will come in the market, and sometimes you have to think whether this is right for this one. If you The thing is, what you do here will be reproduced all over the country, and then sometimes you don't want a Norwegian disaster sort of thing. Sometimes when you go to buy a car and you want to know how powerful in the car, how fast will it go, the person who's selling the car wants to sell you, what are the accessories for the car, where is the AC vent coming on, and how is the flash mode there. The idea to concentrate on only improving survival and have procedures which will not produce risk. Not everyone will have volumes to create a learning curve. So I think we didn't encourage transanal procedures, TATME for this. But now with changing times, with the Star Trek thing, so the time has to be learned, and that volumes will grow over a period of time. And thank you, Dr. Dikshit, once again.
So as a follow-up to that, Avnish, do you do many transanal excisions? Because I must say that I find also using the robot to do some of those excisions has been very helpful, and it has made things very easy as compared to the TEMS and the TAMIS.
Definitely, I think compared to the TO system, it used to take some time. The robotic is really good to suture over the thing. I think before COVID, we were doing, obviously, as I showed, early cancers are less. We were doing about 10 to 15 TO. After COVID, the incidence of early cancers is relatively less here. The gastroenterologists have become good, and so sometimes they can do full thickness excision as well. So there's a competition between surgeons and those. But I think the robotic is a great tool for robotic thing as well. And we don't have access to single port there, but I'm sure with the new Chinese one coming in, then that should be a great thing. And if you're looking at all the StarTech program with 80% organ preservation, then all of us will have to learn about it. So sooner or later.
And do you have, do your fellows or your residents spend some time learning colonoscopies?
Yes, I think we have a colonoscope in theater, because you may not, I think in India, the policy, the gastroenterologists do most of this. And if you were ever to move into a hospital, they would not give you an endoscopy list because that is their domain, and they are getting good at it. Which I know in US, both yourself and Embry are doing a great job in doing early resection. So, but that is not accessible so far. But we have kept a colonoscopy in theater because you want it at hand, check the anastomosis, if you have a polyp in the bowel, and that is the skill what most people can do. It is not in the training curriculum here as well, but there are centers where you could go for 7 days and learn 200 colonoscopies. I think it is an essential thing. We cannot change the training program there, but there are fellowship programs which have been started by the ACRISCON, where they keep endoscopy and colonoscopy as a part of it. But yeah, that surgical oncologists definitely don't do it. The surgical gastro do it. General surgeons do it.
Yes, because that was one skill when I moved to the US, I did not have colonoscopic skills, and that was very quick learning curve for me. I must say it has certainly enhanced my abilities as a surgeon to do a lot more. And, if you think of it analogous, urologists don't send their cystoscopies to nephrologists. So as surgeons, we must learn how to do our scopes. Whether you do it or no, whether it's politically correct, referral, we get that.
But I think we will have to change. As a follow-up, I know in your clinic, everyone has a flexible segmentoscopy. So at your office, flexible segmentoscopy should be the standard of care, and that should be offered. So learning flexible segmentoscopy, I would definitely encourage surgeons to do. Maybe I will have to buy it myself. Let's see.
Great. Okay. Alazar Aragavi, please go ahead and speak with Dr. Saklani. Can you hear me, Alazar?
Farooq, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to attend this session with Professor Saklani. As my previous appearance as well in the group, I'm a general surgeon who works in Ethiopia almost for the last 10 years with a passion to pursue in colorectal stream. So I think I have met Professor Saklani via email while I apply for colorectal fellowship. So as I wrote on the Q&A, so my question here would be, what advices would Professor give to his international fellows, like somebody who comes to him or to his expert like him, colleagues who come?
Good, Alazar. Good to hear about you. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the system is in some part developed and some part not so developed. It's not so developed. Sometimes the process is a bit long. It has to go through the academic thing. But the good thing about it is if someone international fellows in, they get registration to the medical council, and then you can scrub up for the list and you can operate. We had a fellow from Malaysia who did many cases under us. But the process is a bit long sort of thing, getting it through. The other thing is about funding. See, unfortunately, we are unable to fund salaries for fellows. But if you can, there are a lot of companies actually. The Merck Foundation itself can fund the salaries, and we can. There is a lot of access to work, and we actually welcome fellows from overseas to come here because it's an exchange both ways. So we can learn about the country. I myself have encourage people from Ghana, from Kumasi, who have come here, and we have gone to the hospital to operate as well. Yes, we do welcome surgeons from across. The process is a bit challenging because, like I said before, even for getting research, it's a bit cumbersome to get through everything. But hopefully the hospital will get better at it. But I'm sure your paperwork has gone through, and they said probably whenever your time comes, they will get all your registration done. Okay, thanks, Alzira.
Great.
Thank you.
Mohammad Taha Sheikh, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your excellent talk. And it's always a learning whenever I listen to you. And I just have a comment and a question. Comment is that the Sargangaram Hospital, where I work as a colorectal surgeon, which has been recently created division, separate from general surgery, GI surgery, and oncosurgery, and we do colorectal cancers, benign, and we do benign as well. So our hospital is registered with the International TATME registry for doing the transcendental total excision, and we're logged around 47 cases. And we have a robust colonoscopy program in which we have a fellow who is getting trained, and he's getting trained the way I was trained in US. You give hands-on, and then he's also now picking up the skills. So my question is, as I always ask, that is, as your paper said, that we are having cancers at an early stage, and also they are very advanced. In your experience and with your wisdom, do you think we should have some kind of a screening program to catch up these cancers early?
I think for the government to start a screening program, it will never be cost effective because the prevalence isn't there. But what you can do is you can inform and improve education from them, and you can recommend a fit test for patients to be done at the age of 55 or even 50, and if they're positive, and then they should have access to a colonoscope which can be done. I think I would definitely recommend it in my future practice to have a fit done at the age of 50 or 55. A single the colonoscopy may be a bit of an overkill there, but I'm sure there won't be any national program there. Also, most of the rectal bleeding is seen by general surgeons there, making them aware about them and starting a flexible sigmoidoscopy thing, or early rectal bleeding clinic if any hospital can have. That way you could probably detect more cancers. If everyone did the same, they would definitely detect more cancer. With over the next 15-20 years, I think already it's among the top 5 cancers now, and it is going to be an issue there. I think we should plan early, and for all other in your practice, you could recommend that you could start a fit test at the age of 50 or 55, and if they have, then you can ask the colonoscopy for that. I think we organized a big conference at least 2 years back doing that, and unfortunately we could not have consensus based on it because it would not be cost effective. What do you think? Parul probably may have a better insight into this.
No, I agree with you. Obviously, I think it's challenging when you have to deal with large populations and the incidence may not be justifying extremely expensive screening. But you have to, as you said, maybe co-opt the private sector, in government sectors, raise awareness. I think that's a big thing. It's a low-hanging fruit in terms of raising awareness for screening. And important now is to use the word prevention rather than screening for colorectal cancer, because that's what we are doing when you're finding adenomas and polyps. So certainly there's a lot of scope to bring in the population and also work with epidemiologists on that. But we have 3 more questions. Are you okay, Avanish, to go with 3 more questions?
Yeah, should be fine. Yeah.
So just before I go to the questions, I'd like everyone on this call to also know that I know it's going to be a hard act to follow out Professor Saklani, but next week we have Professor Rowan Parks on the same session on Sunday. As you know, he's the president of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh. So don't miss that session. So coming back, Shashwat Vyas, go ahead, speak with Dr. Saklani, please.
Good evening, sir. That is just an enlightening session for us. My question is, I'm a practicing surgeon at Rajasthan, and we have a dedicated piles clinic for related to rectal bleeding or like lower GI bleeding. So we have encountered a patient who is having an obstructive growth along with liver mets, and that time we just did an diversion colostomy. So is there any benefit of, like, the tumor could have been completely resected, but we didn't do that? Would the resection could have any advantage on the survival of the patient? Thank you, sir.
I think most of the times for all these cancers, it's better to discuss in a tumor board, between a radiologist, the medical oncologist, and things. Because what happened, they will have a good perspective. Sometimes you've seen only liver mets and the lung may not be seen. And so sometimes if you go ahead with surgery and you missed out other things, everything should have a benefit. And if you did an obstructed tumor and you did some resection, if they have morbidity, then you may not be able to give systemic chemotherapy. Sometimes you may be right, but sometimes it may not be good for the patient. So what best thing is to do is to have a discussion in your tumor board and see what is best for the patient, discuss with the family and see how things go. But sometimes I would encourage you to come over to TMH and have a look at this. Sometimes you see many of these challenging cases at a big chunk when they come to the clinic, and then you can have an idea there. But yeah, I think all of us want to work in the best benefit of the patient, but sometimes it may not be the right thing. So that way, I think I would encourage that everything should be discussed in a tumor board and see how things go, and then they may decide chemo first, or if it is symptomatic, they may say surgery first or stoma. But yeah, I think at least you are aware about it and you want to do good thing for the patient. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Professor Joshi from Mumbai, good friend to both Avanish and me. Go ahead, Professor Joshi.
Hey, Avanish.
Hi, Rajiv. How are you doing, man?
Proud of you. Can you elaborate on the functional outcomes after ISR using lab vis-a-vis robotic? And has there been an overall disillusionment with ISR?
Right, right. I think before you go into the thing is sometimes if you do only once or twice, then maybe technically it may not have developed well. Or even if it is technical, I think the rehabilitation is a very important part of this. So I think we normally counsel the patient before and offer an offshore of APR versus ISR and counsel them. You will have frequency, urgency, leakage. And you have to tell them the truth. It is not about what you want, it is what the patient wants. And you can tell them, okay, 10% of the times now you may have a high incontinence thing, or you may have urgency, you may not be able to do this. But like the French, they have created a rehab program. So after 4 to 6 weeks they give Imodium and see how things go. If it doesn't work, then they would give a rectal irrigation program, or they can do biofeedback and things like that. And with this, only 10% of the people may still be dissatisfied. So in a hospital we have specialist nurses who look after all these things, and by 4 week itself we start Imodium and things, and rectal irrigation. We sometimes patients are quite at the beginning, patients are very keen to have a temporary stoma without realizing what the functional implications are. But I think you can rehabilitate them. I think without a rehabilitation program, it's very difficult. And sometimes you have to swallow your pride and say, okay, you offered it. The whole idea was the patient should comply with treatment. And if you've done an oncological good outcome, you have saved his life. If 10% of the patients after this, they're not happy, and you need to do a stoma, I don't feel bad about it or something. If I've informed everyone, I think you have to swallow your pride. I think you have to do what is good for the patient. If rehabilitation doesn't work, it will need a stoma. And you have already counseled them about APR, which is, of course, a faster operation. But looking back, I remember once I did an APR for someone saying that he won't have complications, and he ended up with empty pelvis syndrome, and you had to operate on him twice. But it's the real thing, sir, because we do quite a lot of this, and sometimes many of these will come back to clinic, and it requires a lot of counseling. But now we have created a specialist department of nurses who can look after the symptoms, look at the large score, and over gradually give loperamide and rectal irrigation.
Also, I think for ISR, patient selection is very important. The pre-existing sphincter condition of the sphincter, and I think that's in a debilitated or a patient who's nutritionally depleted, you're going to get poor outcomes and also poor sphincter function. But that's great. Next is Mr. Barry Clements, who's my mentor. He's coming from Belfast. Thank you so much, Barry, for joining us. If you can, please unmute yourself. Thank you for your mentorship to me. Okay, we'll move on to Dr. Rakesh Bade. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Saklani, excellent presentation. My question is at a very basic level, sir. With stalwarts like Dr. Shukla here, you here. See, when I started training, I went through all the various specialties, breast, head and neck, everything. Then I realized that my calling is head and neck and women's cancer. Sometimes it was very painful to give up GI, but I did give up. No regrets. So, what is your advice for early surgeons who are training? When should they look at it that they need to specialize? And suppose in GI only, where do you decide you go to only colorectal versus foregut versus HPB versus transplant? And when do you take that call, or should you not be doing any rotation training, any other branch, and straight away start only in your specialty? So,
no. True, Rakesh. With you to, I don't know, I couldn't put it across. I think my training is actually, I don't know, maybe over 20 years or so. So you always become a general and become a foot soldier again. But you learn something in every position, and it is your calling. Over a period of time, you will realize one is that you like one thing in particular, or you are good at one thing. And over a period of time, when the people start out a general surgical oncology, and a lot of them may not enjoy head and neck oncology, and there's many surgical oncologists to start out as surgical oncologist may not find it too fancy because the complication rate may be high or something, and so they may decide to go into GI. Some may want to go into breast. The idea is to have a whole generic training, and over the next 2 or 3 years, then you get your calling itself. Okay, because I know you're doing a great job in head and neck, Rakesh. Awesome, and with I know otherwise the morbidity sometimes with head and neck turns off a lot of people. So it's great, man.
Great, thank you. Mr. Clements?
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Dr. Shukla, for connecting us.
Thank you.
Yes, Parul, how are you? Nice to talk to you and see you looking so sharp again. It's great
See,
that you
only
have
a mentor can talk to you like that, right?
global interventions, and everybody's at a particular time. It's Sunday, middle of the day for me, but I know that people in India are getting up very early to do this, so they must really love you.
Yeah, thank you
So,
so much.
no. It's great. It's great that you're using this initiative, and I'm so pleased to be involved. And I think back, particularly the mentorship thing, we learned from the very beginning, and it's very easy to go to a fellowship that all these fantastic surgeons are providing, and it is the icing on the cake just before you become autonomous as a consultant. But I do believe that from the moment the most receptive trainees are picking up from day one, and they all get variety, it's the spice of life, and they will ultimately decide on their own practice. But it's great when you come to a fellowship like Avanish would offer, in that you send out disciples, and hopefully then the really good things that they learn they can put into practice. And if they're good trainers, and we're trainers every single day, they will get the benefit of training those coming through. So I think it's a fantastic idea. I have two sons, as you know, who are now on a fellowship. They have CCT'd. One's doing robotic liver surgery, and he's lucky to be in Liverpool, his alma mater, and the other one doing head and neck sarcoma surgery in plastics in Newcastle. And hopefully they'll bring back something beneficial. But I have to say, to get the best out of a fellowship, it's the responsibility of the local training program to put them in a position where they can actually be in a position to gain something from the higher end training that they get, which is only a year in somebody like Avanish's unit and your unit and every other person who's contributing to that type of a program. So just my feelings, and it's great to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting me. It's brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you. You want to
Thanks,
speak?
thanks, Barry. That's a great thing, because after you impart all this training and you go to a low volume center, you can't use the skill, is a big waste. So in India, you have a lot of regional cancer centers there, both in private and personal, and you try your best to get your fellow there. I know Pavan, who works in Kidwai, is a regional cancer center in Bangalore, or Navina, who works in Manipal. So besides training, you also have to, I'm sure it happens in the same training program in UK and Northern Ireland. So I think that is the best solution for the country as well, if you can put them into regional training programs. But
I agree. Totally agree. Absolutely. I think that's the key. And as you say, the wonderful thing I'm gaining from the experts in India, sometimes there's parts of the world we don't get to really hear what goes on, and yet they're probably the most progressive areas because they have such high volume. So it is fantastic to be party to listening to all the avenues and specialties in surgery that we're getting access to. And I think, again, Parul deserves credit for the initiative. Delighted to see that part, because I've never actually been to India. But I know that he went to Mumbai to the Tata Centre from the training programs that he had in the UK. Lastly, Paul McMaster. So I know he has benefited from it. He's a perfect example of someone who's at the best of Western training and has then also put it into practice at home. So fantastic. Thank you very much for your presentations. Every single one has been so eloquent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words. And please continue being part of SFS.
Yeah,
Please.
I'll try and also put the word out, Parul, because I know there's many others like me who would be just enjoying this initiative. So I will do that to spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. Caleb
Pleasure.
Harris, go ahead.
Sir, it was a pleasure working with you and learning from you. So when you joined Tata Memorial in 2011, what was your 5-year plan then? I mean, did you have a vision saying that, okay, you need to set up a minimal invasive services first, then move on to peritoneal surface, and then robotic? Did you have a plan, or just went along with the way?
I think my plan was survival, first my own and then the patient. No, I think, Caleb, actually, when you came in, it was a bit of a surprise. You didn't expect it. When you had left 15 years back, you were not aware about all these things like exenteration, peritoneal surface. But when you sit in OPD and you see 150 patients, and probably you owe them something, and you have to find something for someone. You have to get your colleagues across. And the best thing about TMH, is about fellows and residents like yourself, who will bring out the question, and then we have to find a solution. And it's been a good journey, Caleb. Thank you. I think Caleb leads a great team in Northeast as well, in a cancer center there. He's not from the Northeast, but he's leading a great service there. Great work, Caleb.
Thank you, Caleb. We have one last question. Aman Bharadwaj, go ahead, please.
Very warm good evening, sir. Sir, I'm a young general surgeon, recently like graduated 2 years back, and so I just want to know how your experience was like. So I was recently navigating through NHS and was planning to get into a fellowship over there, and that's what I'm actively applying also at this point. But a lot of people are suggesting me that India is a great learning place, and great place to really gain experience, and you'll flourish better in India and things like that. So so first of all, sir, I want to know like how do you think the training has changed your career trajectory after going to UK? And also, sir, and also I wish to know about fellowships in Tata, if you can throw some light on it. That'll
Sure.
be really helpful, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
I think the advantage of what Parul is showing is, there is something to learn from every continent. There is an advantage of India with numbers. Okay, there's an advantage in UK in terms of how you get organized and how can you plan, and I mean how you can improve survival as well. And then you can go to Korea and you can learn how technology can be there. So you have to spend some time everywhere and pick up the best, and then decide where you want to go. If you just concentrate on only the operating part itself, I mean, that is the thing. The thinking process has to be different. Then probably you may get the best outcome for the surgery, but you may not get the best outcome for the patient. So I would encourage you, a young, maybe 32 or something, if you're going to practice for another 35 years, maybe good to travel and things like that. Don't think it's a waste of your time. And what the best way to do is, before you jump into something, okay, just put your foot in and see. So go for an observership program. You can go for a week or so. There are many societies in the country, both laparoscopic and robotic surgeries and Acriscon. They give you traveling grants there. Please use those grants. American Society of Colorectal Surgeons also have a grant where you can go and experience it. Once you see how the feeling in, and if it's up to your liking, then you can find out how to work around it and see how things go. I would encourage you to come to TMH also to see how it works there. And I think that is the best way. Someone says, I want to come for a fellowship. I said, why don't you come for a week to couple of weeks and see how you feel? And once you have taste, and then you may like it, or you may dislike it immensely. That's too much of a workload, and that's the thing. Idea is to travel and learn. And if you can't travel and learn, please watch FSH, because you have surgeons from all over the world who are progressing the view.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
You've been such a great mentor to so many mentees, and we can see from your talk and from your answers and your interaction, it's a great passion. So, please come back to SFS. I want you to come back and speak to all our members. Please use the app as often as you can and be available to our members reaching out to you. I'll leave the last words to you before I just put on the screen again our next week's mentorship program. Go ahead, Professor Saklani. Thanks again.
Thank you, Parul. It was a great experience for me to see what I have gone through and how the journey has done. And I'm very glad to be part of SFS, and I would like to contribute to this. Thank you very much. And thank you all for watching on this Sunday and taking your time out. Thanks.